almost a year ago, the government said that the protocol was unsustainable. They produced a command paper with all sorts of changes that they wanted. Didn't go quite far enough for some of us, but at least it was saying we want change. And nothing has happened. And time after time, the Prime Minister repeats that the protocol is not working. Liz Truss says it regularly every time she goes off and has negotiations with Šefčovič, the European president who's dealing with European issues to do with the protocol. She makes these quite strong-sounding noises, and then nothing happens. And of course, we had originally the argument was that we couldn't do anything because of COVID. Then we couldn't do anything until after the COP conference in Scotland, because that was terrible to upset people before that. And then, of course, now the government has the terrible situation in Ukraine as another excuse, reason for doing nothing. In the meantime, every day, literally every day, something new comes up, a bit like the example you've just given. We've had others this week already. And then, again, it is leading to people feeling frustrated, younger people feeling angry, more and more demonstrations and rallies that are against the protocol. And that's all coming in the context of elections coming up in May. And I think now what the government is basically doing is that they're not going to do anything at all until after the elections, when who knows what's going to happen. But the reality is Northern Ireland has been left in the European Union, and yet it's constitutionally meant to be a part of the United Kingdom, and the majority of people in Northern Ireland still want to be part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and what ought to be really offensive about it is that when the UK was in the EU, we had members in that European Parliament. Now it's Slovenes and Danes and Luxembourgers voting on the distribution of medicines within the UK. How is that remotely acceptable to Liz Truss?
Well, I do sometimes wonder how, on one hand, we go on about being an independent country. Brexit was going to make us free. We were going to look globally at the rest of the world and be our own country. And it's something I supported very, very strongly. And of course, a big number of people in Northern Ireland voted to leave. But anyway, the referendum was for the whole of the United Kingdom. And yet we have a situation now where there was no consent whatsoever from people in Northern Ireland. And the people who are making the decisions about these rules and bureaucracy and technical things that are going to happen with trade are members of parliament from other countries, or members of parliament from, of course, our neighbouring country, the Republic of Ireland. And that is very galling. Now, the government did take some arbitrary decisions some time ago where they introduced and simply said we're going to have some grace periods where none of these or some of these regulations and laws will not come into effect. And in fact, they did that with the medicines. But of course, the European Union is now trying to look like they've been so nice to us, and they've actually discussed it in their parliament and have agreed very kindly that they're going to let the rest of the United Kingdom send us medicines without having to have their approval anymore. But of course, it only goes so far, and we're not sure, of the detail that actually will mean that. And just this week, we've had an announcement that another trade change, that anyone who's selling any kind of radio parts, instruments, will have to get the technical designs agreed and the details agreed by the European Union. So literally, I think at the beginning, to be honest, an awful lot of people in Northern Ireland and certainly in Great Britain thought, well, this is just a technicality. It's just a little measure to try and stop having some kind of trade border at the frontier between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which of course is still in the European Union. But as time's gone on, we've seen not just it affecting our trade and many, many things now that can't come in or don't. The businesses don't want to send them to Northern Ireland because it's too difficult, too expensive, too bureaucratic. So we're now having to get goods sometimes from the Republic of Ireland or the European Union via the Republic of Ireland, which is adding to costs, but of course is making it, quite good for the Republic of Ireland.
Well, Brussels' point is that this is necessary to maintain the Good Friday Agreement. In other words, if you're not ruled from Brussels and the European Council and the European Parliament, everyone's going to be killing each other and blowing everybody up all over again. Do you think that's remotely serious?
I think the Good Friday Belfast Agreement did bring stability to Northern Ireland for many years, but it was based on a very, very fundamental principle, which was the consent of people in Northern Ireland, that no change to the constitutional position of Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom could happen without there being a referendum on that. And of course, what we've seen, and indeed the appeal court in Northern Ireland, and I'm one of the numbers of people who have been taking the government to court on a judicial review, which will eventually, fairly soon, end up in the Supreme Court in London. The appeal court actually said yes, the Act of Union has been changed, it's been subjugated, but it's not something that needed to be decided by the people of the United Kingdom. It's been that decision has been made by the Parliament. And MPs must have known what they were doing. Well, I've talked to a lot of MPs. Most of them had no idea that what they were doing was actually subverting the Act of Union. And so we really are in a situation where the Constitution has been changed of Northern Ireland without consent.
No, and, when you look at those guys, no disrespect to your colleagues, Kate, but when you look at those guys in the House of Commons today, I'd like to know what percentage of them has even heard of the 1801 Act of Union, because I would be surprised if that got much over 17%, to be honest.